Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. Today I want to talk about the bombing of Dresden during World War II. Now, what I wanted to do here was I wanted to do some research and I wanted to basically present this to you as this was an act of terrorism against refugees, a non-military target, where it was a genocidal action. This is what I wanted to prove to you through all my deep research and just blow your mind. No, it's going to be super easy. Very first article, Google the bombing of Dresden. Very first article that comes up is from history.com and it's called Why Was Dresden So Heavily Bombed? In this article, they're going to admit everything that I was going to research and prove to you, right? So basically, this is going to be a very simple story. You could even turn this off and just go read that article and laugh yourself to tears, because it's a tragedy what happened, but it's insane that I have this theory now. After a certain amount of years, you could just tell the truth about something. So Gulf of Tonkin, we're kind of there, but we're not really there because remember they had decades of secrecy they had to keep. And then you kind of let them know, and then you got survivors talking about it. And then eventually it gets to the point where you can be like, nah, yeah, we did that. It was purely terrorism. You know what I mean? The stuff they're going to admit in this article is insane. So let's just get into it and see what they got. So the bombing attack on Dresden, Germany, stands among the most controversial Allied actions of World War II. From February 13th to 15th, 1945, 800 bombers dropped some 2,700 tons of explosives and incendiaries, decimating the German city. Tens of thousands died. This is great. You ready for this? American prisoners of war had heard the whump whump of distant aerial bombings many times before. But on February 13, 1945, they heard Dresden's fire sirens howl right above their heads. German guards moved them 2 stories down into a meat locker. When they came back to the surface, quote, the city was gone, end quote, remembered writer and social critic Kurt Vonnegut, one of Americans' POWs who witnessed the Dresden bombing. So literally in this story, right? The Germans have American POWs. They take them down and put them in a meat locker because they're in custody of Germany. So Germany's responsible for them. So instead of taking their wives and children down to the meat locker, they take the POWs that they're responsible for because they have to keep them. You're talking about the Nazis here? It's really strange behavior. Very gentlemanly of them, we'll say. Okay? Here's the motivation. Since Dresden served as a major center for Nazi Germany's rail and road network, its destruction was intended to overwhelm German authorities and services and to clog all transportation routes with throngs of refugees. The Allied assault came less than a month after some 19,000 U.S. troops were killed in Germany's last-ditch offensive at the Battle of the Bulge, and 3 weeks after the grim discovery of the atrocities committed by Nazi forces at Auschwitz. So check this out, okay? 19,000. Okay. The United States lands on Normandy and they're fighting headed towards Germany. So Germany launches a counteroffensive and kills 19,000 U.S. troops in bloody warfare. So one of the excuses for murdering civilians at Dresden is because in a battle between soldiers, a lot of U.S. soldiers lost their lives. So now it's time to kill the women and children. Insane. That's not a motivation. That's a motivation for war crimes. That's not a motivation. Okay. And the last one, 3 weeks after the discovery of the atrocities committed by Nazi forces at Auschwitz, which is nonsense because at the time, the United States knew that they bombed the rails. And so when they get there and see all the starving people, they're like, oh, we shouldn't have bombed the rails. In an effort to force a surrender, the Dresden bombing was intended to terrorize the civilian population locally and nationwide. It certainly had that effect. Okay, easy. Don't gotta prove to you that it's terrorism. They literally, that was in the motivations, okay? This is how the bombing took place. In the time that Vonnegut and others hid underground, the British Bomber Command's Blind Illuminator aircraft had rained explosives and incendiaries over the city. Then visual marker aircraft swooped low to drop thousands of flares and fire target markers. The main attack formation followed. Over 500 heavy Lancaster bombers loaded with explosives and incendiaries. The U.S. 8th Air Force attacked the next day with another 400 tons of bombs and launched yet another raid with 210 bombers on February 15th. I'm not sure if this is the exact one, but there was one where they did a bombing on a German city, and then when the German people came back to look for the dead, they bombed it again just to get. I mean, it's just terrible. Okay, with the German Luftwaffe destroyed and anti-aircraft defense in shambles, the Royal Air Force lost only 6 planes On the ground, however, thousands of small fires merged into a powerful firestorm that created such powerful winds that it sucked oxygen, fuel, broken structures, and people into its flames. Quote, those who have unlearned how to cry, end quote, lamented Nobel Prize recipient and Prussian dramatist Gerhard Hauptmann, quote, will learn it afresh on the destruction of Dresden, end quote. Okay, so it was a terrible atrocity. Now let's get into the numbers, and we're also going to see why they revised the numbers downward, and you can guess what the one reason why they did that. You can pretty much guess that, but they say it in the article. They say the quiet part out loud. Okay. Initial and partisan estimates of the number of dead seem to suggest that the Dresden bombing was uniquely cruel. David Irving would claim in his 1963 book, The Destruction of Dresden, that the bombing was, quote, the biggest single massacre of European history, end quote. His estimate of 150,000 to 200,000 dead was long accepted without dispute. But his assertion that Dresden was the, quote, Hiroshima of Germany, end quote, quickly drew serious criticism, not just for its lack of evidence, but also for ignoring the Holocaust. Parentheses. Irving later earned notoriety and a criminal conviction as a Holocaust denier, end parentheses. Okay. And if you want to know about that criminal conviction, it was in Austria. Okay. So basically his assertion, right, that it was the Hiroshima of Germany quickly drew serious because not just for its lack of evidence, but also for ignoring the Holocaust. So because David Irving was a Holocaust denier, that means that clearly 150,000 to 200,000 people did not die, right? So from 1963 to 2010, people believe that 150 to 200,000 people have died. And it's a lie here when it says Dresden. And it's a lie here too when it says, but his assertion that Dresden was the Hiroshima of Germany quickly drew serious criticism. So quickly drew serious criticism is from 1963 to 2010. Super fast, right? Now they're going to revise it down. This is the best part. Get ready for this. I cannot believe they let themselves say this stuff. This article was written in 2020 and it was updated in 2023. A human being went and read this and didn't realize how ludicrous. They're saying all the quiet parts out loud. Check this out. In part to prevent right-wing ideologues from exploiting widespread speculations about the death toll, the city of Dresden set up a historical commission in 2004 to produce more precise data with historical, military, forensic, and archaeological research. In 2010, it published a revised estimate of 22,700 to 25,000 dead. Get this. This is just insane. In order to prevent right-wing ideologues from exploiting widespread speculations about the death toll, they revised the number downward. Because the research that you can do between 2004 and 2010 on an event that happened in 1945 can be so precise compared to the people doing the research weren't even alive when the event happened. It's like me taking a history book and saying just any battle, right? And this is when Hannibal was fighting Rome, right? And they're like, okay, and 1,450 people died approximately, right? And I go back and say, wait, I got this. Jack, I could do this, right? I'm going over there. I'm doing some research, right? And I'm going to come back and say, it was 40,000. It's insane. The hubris, the narcissism is insane. Anyways, that's what I've got for you. I think it's fascinating. They literally admit why they lower the numbers down, why they revise the totals down. Because the truth is just too brutal. It's too cruel, you know? It's like, maybe if we tell them the truth, which everybody's known for 50 years, right? We'll just start telling the new truth in 2010 in Newspeak, you know? And then it's like, when somebody says, man, maybe the Allies did some bad stuff during World War II. No, they didn't. We revised the numbers in 2010. Of course they didn't do any bad stuff. This is just insane. They changed it because not for its lack of evidence, not just for its lack of evidence, but also for ignoring the Holocaust. This is insane. I mean, this is like if you're a biologist working on something and I don't like your view on Black Lives Matter. And it's like, your biology is crap because Black Lives Matter. What? This is insanity. This is a cult. It's a cult-like behavior. It literally is a cult-like behavior. It's like a group psychosis. It's amazing. Anyways, it's amazing. So basically, I didn't have to prove any of the things I needed to prove to you because they admit everything that I had wanted to make this episode about. how the Allies were trash, how they targeted civilians, and I'm not saying other people didn't target civilians, but anyways, I decided right now to make a little short clip right there, short little cutout right there, and I decided to not make more conclusions. You make the conclusions. Put your conclusions in the comments below. I'm interested. I think it's an interesting story. Stuff I didn't know about. I did know there was a controversy in the numbers because I always Google like, what's the number? And it's hard to find the answer. And that's because of what's going on here. Anyways, that's what I got for you. I think it was interesting. Put a comment below if you got more on this. And hope to see you next week.